Mario and Nedum are with us for this one. Does he have a point, Nedum?
I think he does have a point because he's speaking from experience. You know, it's a guy that's played in, I think, several tournaments for Gareth Southgate, the World Cup 2018, the Euros in 21, you know, the last World Cup, and then obviously missing out on this one. I think when he says that this is tournament football, I think that means different things to different people. But for all those involved, they understand that the stuff which he said is true. You can't be too expansive. You're one result away from, say, losing the chance to play in the next game. And yes, I'd imagine all these players want to play really nice football, but I think we saw throughout the tournament that not many teams were really able to do that, whether it was due to the teams they were playing against, due to the fact that they'd played, 50, 60 games before the tournament had even started, or whether it was conditions themselves. I think for some, the way I see it throughout the season is whenever there's an international break in September, October, November, there aren't a ton of eyes on people going to watch those games of football because they don't like international football. They find it a bit boring, find it a bit this. But then when the tournament arrives, because England have got the superstars, you say, well, this should look great. And obviously they could have played better, but they were 90 minutes away from potentially winning a European Championships, which they have not done before. And I think whatever their route is to get themselves into that position, I think whatever it looks like, I can understand it because it is tournament football, as I say. Obviously, the better team on the day and the best team in the tournament in Spain did win it, but England did have a chance to do it. And if it would have happened, then, what would the coverage have been like? Would we have said, yeah, it's great that they won, but we still expect to be entertained in a far greater manner?
What do you think of what Harry had to say, Robbo?
I can understand it to a certain degree. He's obviously defending, because you actually retired him there. You said former England.
Well, I said England or former. We don't know, do we?
So I'm sure he'll get another chance. England didn't play well enough in games, and it wasn't because, I thought they were cautious. I think the manager probably wanted them to play better, but he didn't know how to get the best out of them. And when they were pressing the ball, they didn't know they couldn't press it with any sort of determination, and they didn't press together. So they dropped off. They played with a centre forward that he couldn't play anymore after the first three games because he couldn't run. And that's a major problem when they went from back to front. There was nobody supporting the front play. That comes from the manager as well. And I've said over many, many years that Gareth Southgate is a brilliant manager of getting the players together and making sure that they've got a good team spirit. But when it comes to the game tactically, he's a million miles away from the best managers that were at that tournament. And that's why Spain won the tournament, because they had a better coach. And Gareth Southgate did a good job in terms of getting the spirit right. But England, in most of the tournaments, have had fairly easy runs right through. They've never played the top teams. The only time they played a top team, who was, I think, probably ranked better than them, was when they played Germany at Wembley in the quarterfinals or the last 16 of the European Championships, when they had every game at Wembley. Every other time, the teams have been below them in the rankings.
When you see what Harry Maguire had to say, Mario, what do you think? Do you think he's right to say that they were criticised maybe a bit too heavily and it was ridiculous?
No, I understand. Look, when you play tournaments like that, you understand, when you go to the Euro, I understand that you have to be tactically and you got to think about certain things. The only thing I say when I watched England and, of course, and talked about the games, is that there was a couple of players that you wanted to see more of what they did during the season. And I think some games I hadn't seen that. And I'm talking about, guys that we enjoy watching, Foden, Bellingham, you understand? Those were the kind of guys that we wanted to see more of, like Saka, or some games, he got his goal, he did his thing, but I know how he can be for Arsenal. And I wanted to see more of that. Away from that, you understand, some of the tactics what England wants to play, they couldn't play it. Kane is not the guy like we know. Okay, normally you can play it on a counter-attack. And I don't think, you understand, England really responded to that well because all the teams that they faced were playing that. I mean, even Holland were struggling sometimes with that. But I'm just saying, like, when Spain played up front, they could hit you on the break and fast, with those wingers going out. You understand, even if Morata was up front for them, they could go out fast. And I think England sometimes struggled with that they looked tactically sitting back and waiting. It took too long. The passes were too safe. They're holding out to do any danger. And I think that's what maybe Maguire highlighted. But also you have to be understanding. Look, like Nathan said, sometimes you also might not say always what you think, but sometimes you also have to understand that tournament football is different than during the league football because it's totally different. You got one game and you better do it right, and that's what the stake was really high for England.